Okay. So I'm going to be looking at Nazir's. Nazir is doing a 14-day challenge for the body. Now, Nazir, I'm going to need you to really pay attention to the day one of 14-day challenges is always the most difficult because what happens with it is that everything comes all at once, and it's not just pick some of the pieces that I tell you to take. It's seriously try to take in as much as possible. Try to remember each and every single piece of advice I give you, because at that point you're going to need to um, for those who are interested, Mattia, you're going to need to break in. Do you know what it means when someone starts working out for the first time? What the trainer does is if they break them, they sort of like shatter them to pieces. They make sure all their bones, all their muscles are like all their muscles have been used on their body. Um, when you take a trainer for the first time, I know my sister went through that. So what you have to do is that exactly. You have to allow me to make sure I make you exercise every single artistic muscle involved in creating something like this, creating a full body or half full body like that. Okay? Yeah, Goblin. It's really helpful to do studies. So, Nazir, if either you write them down, either you correct as I go, Nazir, it's really up to you. But right now, it seems as if you've taken that next step. So far, you're one of the first people to take on the full body 14-day challenge, not just for the face, but for the body. So you're one of the people that have um, really taken on that challenge. It's a difficult challenge, no doubt. So everything I'm gonna do now, do it too, Nazir, and write it down. Okay? Are we good? I asked for half of the body because those are the most popular in commissions. I didn't assign legs. I asked for like up till here because usually commissions, people who want characters done, usually they add in the legs, but most of the time, majority is a bust. So it's basically just moving like a little bit, and then eventually we're going to be doing full body. We're going to be sides. We're going to be doing the back. But yeah, can we make cool poses? No, it's just like the 14-day challenge. It's really just you perfecting one specific pose, and it's a very general pose. Okay, so first thing, Nazir, um, is the shoulders were a bit too high. They seemed like they were tensed. Remember, the shoulders hang off the neck. They hang off the shoulders. They're sort of pulled, not hanging off hang off the collarbone. They're sort of pulled down by the gravity. So you always have to show that really, really untensed um, sort of movement. It's really just it can be just with a C. Let me just show you for a second because I'm still in liquefy. But with a C movement, sort of, you can get that same exact looseness. Always remember that the shoulders are sort of the framing of the head is framed by the shape of the ears and the chin and the forehead shape the face, but what shapes the head are the shoulders because it's only shaped in one area other than the hair. So basically all you have the surrounding area, the directly surrounding areas are the shoulders, the neck and the hair. I'm not asking for hair, um, but I am asking for stuff that's a little bit more difficult to draw, which is the neck area and the shoulder area. So always remember the shoulder area is sort of it. It helps create a tensed or untensed. All the gestures start of the arms start from the shoulder, so that's a very critical area in the body to make sure that you're drawing it right. And so the way you drew it was very, very tensed, as you might see. So before, do you see? After. The neck was a bit too short. Okay. Then back to liquefy. Now that we see, you remember that whole thing with we find one mistake, everything else falls into place after that. We see that the chest is too high, and I'm not really sure if this is male or female. Is this male or female, or have you just is it female or you just is it male or female? Oh yeah, I assigned female. Never mind, it's female because female is a bit more um what's it called? Popular. So it's best to perfect what's popular first so that you can get a job and pay your bills. Okay? And then, so before, after, do you see? Everything hangs off the shoulders. Everything. The arms come out of the shoulders. The neck comes out of the shoulders. The head comes out of the shoulders. The chest area comes out of the shoulders. It's like a no shit kind of observation. But once you really put it into practice, you realize that it's true. I have to make sure the shoulders are the best that I can make them, the least tense that I can make them. And the best way to avoid um, uh, drawing shoulders in that way, with the way that you drew it before, tensed, is to do the measurement system. Remember the 8-head system, where you have one head, and then you have another head, and another, and another, and they all have to be the same size, sorry, until you have 4 on halves. So this is the main head. This is where the shoulders start. So always remember that at the half of the second head, that's where the shoulders start. That's usually what I give myself as measurement, and I usually have a nicely lengthened neck for that. And when you draw the head shape, you have the head shape. Remember that the shoulders shouldn't be drawn like this. You don't draw the shoulders like this, because then you're going to put the collarbones, and then you're going to put the joints, and then you're going to put all that in there. What the best thing to do is anticipate the curve of the shoulder first. So always introduce the shoulder with a curve. If you're sketching, if you're doing any kind of any kind of figure drawing, always make sure that the shoulder is represented through a curve, a C curve. Okay? Any direction that the shoulders are moving in, always remember that they're in a C curve because they move downward. The arms are always the cause of the gesture. And the shoulders are where the gesture originates from. And the arms play a big role in a fluid-looking figure drawing. So remember, head shape, curved shoulder line. That's a bit too low. Sorry. Curved shoulder line. C curve down in order to introduce the shoulder placement. And then you have the joints. The joints, if you drew it without drawing a curve, if you drew straight like some people do, which is a big mistake, don't use a straight line to start drawing shoulders, because once you place in the joints or the shoulder bumps or the biceps, then you're going to have a shoulder, you're going to try to draw around it, and then you're going to end up drawing a shoulder that is looking like it's tensed or pushed up, or like the girl is putting her hands on each other. Okay? So does everyone know that? If you want to draw a really relaxed looking shoulder, keep it curved. But let's say you drew someone whose arms were pushed up, the gesture has to respond to that. So shoulders do get pushed up this way. It's not that shoulders don't get pushed up. You can do it right now. You can hide your neck inside your shoulders, and you can do something like that. But it's drawing in the 14-day challenge. I want you to draw a very relaxed pose, just like when I did with the faces. I asked you guys to really draw a very basic looking face structure without any serious expressions. Yes, Mattia? Yeah. Yeah, that's just a person doing this, which is not relaxed shoulders. These are tense shoulders. Yeah, shyness is whatever, whatever gesture you work with. I mean, it could be fear, it could be shyness, it could, I mean, this person right here's shoulders are tensed and they're a superhero. They're in superhero mode. Like if you erase this line here, you're gonna have yourself a nicely, I think it's because I watched Superman. And then you draw the biceps. And then the thing, and then probably want to enlarge the size of the head. But you're in like superhero tense mode right now. It doesn't matter. You can still, shoulders still move in that way, but they don't have to move in that way every drawing you do. And to avoid that, draw a curve. The curve anticipates the curvature of the shoulder line, helping you avoid drawing a very tense looking individual. So back to this, where you were before was you had a straight line, and on top of the straight line you drew the joints. What I did was I enforced the curvature first, and then now the joints are introduced, and the joints aren't superseding the neck area, and they're not hiding the neck, and therefore it's not looking like she's shy or scared or I don't know, tense shoulders, or it has no neckline. Okay, so that's the first thing you learned, Nazir. What did you learn? So once you learn it here, the point of the 14-day challenge is to concentrate as much improvement as possible within 2 weeks. If you want to concentrate that much, it's just like working out. The more you put in, the more you get back. So if you want to really improve from now until the 14th day, if you show passion for it, I'm going to show passion for it with what I show you. And I want to know that you guys are sinking it in. So many of you take some of the advice and then sort of take some of it and leave some of it behind because you just get too tired with tracking all of that information. But I want you to track that information, especially with this, Nazir. I want you to improve as much as possible within these 2 weeks. And it'll be like a mentorship, definitely. But my seriousness level reflects only your seriousness level. If you're serious about it, I will reflect that for you, and I'll give you as much information as I possibly know. So, what the first thing you learn today is remember the C curve for shoulder lines. Don't use a straight line because that easily confuses some beginners into thinking that the shoulders sit like this on top, and that when you do go drawing in the shoulders, you've already passed the collarbone line. Always remember that the body shape works in curvatures. It doesn't work in straight lines ever. There's always some sort of bend involved. So remember that, okay? So considering that, let's see. Let me just erase this. Actually, I'll leave that on so you can remember it. Okay. Actually. Okay, so that's number one. Number two, okay, so curvature for the shoulders, and then you have the joints, and then you have the neckline. Okay, next comes up the collarbones. The collarbones always work, so if this was the shoulder angle, these are the collarbone angles, like this. No Masonic, pun intended. So what basically I mean is the collarbone acts in the triangle, pointing upward, or the meeting of the two collarbones. It's sort of like a tiny triangle we use in anime and cartooning to show where the collarbone is. It's like a bird. So when we sketch or do figure drawings or do paintings, there's always sort of like a triangle that we do. Remember, this triangle counteracts the curve of the shoulder line. Okay? And it always tries to shape, because the collarbone is right where the throat area is, right where the jugular is, I think. I don't know. It's just that empty throat area, that empty space that they hollow out when they do it on cancer patients or whatever. So what you have to do is introduce the throat and the muscles of the neck and the collarbone all in one little stroke like that. So what this does is that it's suggesting, if you form more lines out of it, it's suggesting that there is a neck muscle, there is a collarbone muscle that comes out here, and there is a hollow area on these areas. So it's like the trapezius. I think it's called the trapezius or the laterals. I don't know. These muscles here, these big muscles here, this shows where these muscles exist, where they hover. So just this little movement has shown 3 huge muscle groups. And in 3D, slightly frontal C, so it's like 45 degrees C in space from back, top to front, bottom. Yeah, trapezius, I believe. Okay. So let's see if you got that. No, because over here you didn't have much curvature. You had a straight line, and then you had a tiny little set of bone sort of contours here. What you have to do, Nazir, is remember that wherever the joints come out of, the C curve happens here. This is where the collarbone will exist. The collarbone is always beneath the C curve. Are you writing this down, Nazir? The collarbone V, is always beneath the C curve. These tiny little pieces of information will work as landmarks to guide you through drawing a figure from the front. If you follow these rules and take these rules seriously, what you'll discover is that you have a very concentrated, very structured figure drawing, so that next time you don't make these tiny little mistakes that you could avoid. Okay, so just remember the V is always beneath the shoulder line curve, the V of the collarbone. Okay. Yes, sure. Go ahead, ask something. Okay, this is moved down. It's just, okay, I'll just use the brush. Lazy ass Istebrak. So the C is tilted. Is it tilted backward or forward? It's neither. It's tilted downward. Forward and backward is when you start thinking in 3D, and I'll get to that in a second. But I don't really consider, just like with 3D, three-quarter view lessons that I gave you, I don't really consider the 3D aspects of it just yet until I get into three-quarter view. Three-quarter view is when things really start to show. But for now, I'm just going to give you tiny clues. These clues I want you to use on your next 14-day challenge date. So tomorrow, so use these for tomorrow or today. Okay, so using my paintbrush is going to be difficult throughout these critiques. I'm just going to try to do a rough sort of explanation. So now that we have the collarbone sort of lower over here somewhere beneath the C curve, tilted forward, but it's important for drawing shoulders in profile. Yes, but we're not working in profile right now. We're working from front view. I'll address that when it's in profile. I just don't want to saturate too much information. Sorry, it's a phone call. That's loud. Okay, and then now we have the shoulder line. And then we have that dark spot that you place. This dark spot is always where the shoulders end and where sort of the chest begins. It's like a hollow space if you guys can touch it right now. It's right beneath your shoulder. I mean, it's right beside your shoulder and between your shoulder and your breast. Okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna erase the nipples. The Napolis. Sorry. I'm gonna try to move away from certain cliches in art. Okay, when it comes to the breast, remember, are separate circular forms, so I mean they stand out on their own. And thinking about where the lighting came from your drawing, you have to think about which surface areas are exposed to the light. So the chest, imagine there were no breasts, imagine it's flat, which is why I erased them. The dark spots are right here. This is what I mean. These dark spots here help make the circular form of the shoulder line. Okay? So it's like the middle of the C is in the back. What Mattia was talking about, if you guys can just stay concentrated though, is that there's the downward movement, then there's the upward movement, then there's the 3D Z-axis movement that he's talking about, which is like this. Shoulder, and then stuff that forms the rib cage this way and this way. I'm not concerned about this because we're not doing three-quarter view. We're not working with the third dimension right now. We're working with just 2 dimensions so far, sort of. Okay? Okay, and then now for the breast area, remember that there is a lit area in between both breasts. Imagine if the chest was flat. If the chest was flat, this would be the lit area. Why is it lit up? Because the light that you're working with is front view light. That's the typical portraiture light. And that is sort of emerging, helping the chest emerge out. And then you have the breast shape. So basically now if you know how to paint a circle or a sphere, you know how to do this part. Okay, so now it looks like pieces, like imagine plasticine. I wish you guys could sculpt as well for practice. Don't just draw for practice, sculpt as well. And you have the rib cage. You have the stomach area. So I'm just doing a very, very rough rendition of this. So far, let's focus up until here. Let's not focus there. That's too much information for now. So for your 14-day challenges for next time, remember, it's just the bust. That's all I want. I mean, the height that I want from you, okay? I just want you to practice that before jumping into anything new. I'm just going to create a very rough-looking, typical stomach area. But remember, this is all a good shoulder line. It means everything that comes out of the shoulder, arms, chest area, the ribs, the collarbone, all of them act in a very proportionate way. Because if the shoulder line is right, nothing is being pushed too high or too low. Okay? Good job on the faces, though. I really see great improvement. But don't forget to draw important things like eyes. I want you to practice those. Don't be afraid of them or avoid them just because you're focused on the body. No, focus on the whole thing. Take the whole enchilada. I don't know what the heck that means, but I'm just going to use it. Okay? And now for the highlights, bring in the highlights and really just highlight the areas that you want to show. So the collarbone is usually very lit. It's very stretched skin. That is the shadow of the neck area. Okay. Alright, and the arms here are also covered with darkness, but this area here is exposed to the light. So you always have to think about where the light is coming from. It's not just applying shades. It's not just making shades happen. It's about form and revealing form through light. We only ever paint with light. How do we paint other than with the use of lighting? Lighting is the only reason why we paint. It's the only thing that reveals anything from anything else around it. So when you remember stuff like that, you remember that it's all about lighting, you realize how important it is to establish your light source and emulate your light source in your painting. Just try to balance off some muscle areas. She needs a jawline, not much of a jawline on one side, and separating light here. And the neckline moves out of the exterior parts of the jawline and then connecting into a very crucial ear shape. Remember, don't lose your ear. You need the ear in there. And now that we place the ears, we realize there's something wrong, which is the cranial area. It's entirely too small. So you have the forehead, but you don't have the shape of her skull. The shape of her skull needs to be shown as well, the entire girth of her head shape. So this is how I want you to do this. I want you to sculpt. I don't want you to sketch and then inch your way around it until you figure out some sort of proportion. I want you to sculpt the shape of the body. Ista, can you tell me how I make breasts look small? Breasts are smaller simply by making the size of the shape smaller. Also by making less of a catching light or less of a boost. Big breasts sort of cause like shadows, cause large shadows. Small breasts don't cause shadows so large. And so her breasts right now seem pretty small. I just don't want to get too deep into that topic. I just want you to focus on the most of the time you're going to be drawing clothed characters, which is why I want you to focus on clothed for now. But if you do want to practice actual nude anatomy, go ahead. But to make them smaller, you just have to remember it's a smaller shape. And so smaller shapes cause smaller shadows. They also have a separation in between them. Breasts that are large cause cleavage. Cleavage is when you have two breasts. Ugh, I hate this topic, but two breasts on top of each other like that. Or like pushing against each other like that. When they're so large, they can't fit into the shirt. Ew. But when you draw smaller breasts have a large space in between them. And they don't hang as much. They do hang a little bit. They're a bit saggy, but sort of less so. And the cleavage area here, this shadowed area, is almost invisible, and you have just a push, small tiny little shadow underneath. Still need halfway shadow. Not much of the highlight, so the big boobs have like highlights on them, and the shadow is bigger, and the cleavage is bigger, so you see they just start looking bigger and bigger. But for smaller breasts, they don't really have that. Okay, and then you have the tiny nipple space right there. Or if you want to show that they move down, you just move the nipples lower. Yeah, no transition on the top. So sometimes they just connect straight with the tone or the value of the upper thing, and all you really have to work with is just the rib cage area here. Okay, and if you want, you can just also draw in some rib cage, hints of a rib cage. There are no circles though. They're not circles though. Make smaller circles. No, what we mean is they're not circles, of course. Breasts aren't circles. They're just bags. Bags like, shopping bags with like water in them, and they sort of hang and they like have a climax, which is the nipple. But what I mean is, remember the spherical shape involved in a breast and all the other details involved. You just add them in there. Okay? Smaller breasts don't have this bump on the top. Smaller breasts have a sort of little bit of a whipped cream peak. I don't even know. Okay? Do you know what I mean? Larger ones have just a very, very large, and they make the thing point down. So they have a huge bump on the top. Smaller ones have less of a bump. And if you want to make this bump look like it's a bump on Photoshop or on painting, just make no upper area shading here, which is the shading that would be here, and the light that would be here. Okay, so I'll just keep those sketches on for you. And there's like no shading there. Okay, so there's shading there, there's a little bit of shading there, and there's no shading there. Do you see? Do you see, Nazir? Now I'm thinking you're a guy. I don't know. You haven't revealed your gender to us yet. It's okay, it's not my business. That belly button was too high. Okay. And a little bit of light on the belly button area. And then, of course, you need the hip area a little bit larger. By the way, Superman was awesome. It's so many people didn't notice the small, and they call them Easter eggs, which is so dumb. Some people didn't notice the small little hints of Justice League. I mean, you're working with a movie about about a comic book series that is entirely connected, why wouldn't the director use Wayne Enterprises and the logos of the satellite? Or why wouldn't there be LexCorp? I mean, what do you think there's going to be? Enbridge Gas? Or like, what did you think there was going to be? Like McDonald's? This isn't Avengers. It's not as cheesy as Avengers anyway. It's a bit more serious. People were so surprised. They're like, oh my gosh, I saw Wayne Corp. Oh my gosh. It's like, calm down, bro. Of course you did. They're from the same world. They're from the same comic book world, comic book series. If she's petite, she'll have less big hips. Even if she is, there's still a curvature. There's still a bit of a curvature. Just let me sharpen this. There's still a hint of a curvature. Before, what you had is petite just means no extra fat. But there is the curvature to her proportions, though. In her own measurements, in her own petite way, she will have curves. I'm just surprised a lot of Superman fans and a lot of comic book geeks didn't know until someone told them or until they heard that Zack Snyder said it, that there were logos like that in the movie. I saw them right at the screen, like right when the movie started. In the movie, as I was watching it, I noticed that. It's just obvious. How could you not notice it? Don't you read signs? Oh no, you have to leave? I'll get to yours in a second. Okay, so I'm just sharpening up the proportions here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw in the peaks of the shoulder line, which move into the chest area. Okay, and then we have a bit of a shadow here. Okay. Okay. And then you have the secondary light source over here. And that's it. Can I ask if using this technique would help me get more realistic look with some portraits I make? Of course, winner. Of course you can. If you want me to look at something you made, you can send it to me via link here or through Skype if you want to add my Skype, and I can give it back to you. It's better to add Skype, that way I can send it back to you. So let's look at a before and after, Nazir. One second, let me see what these. Fuck that. Flatten image. Okay, save. Oh, mother. Can you send it back to me again? I closed it. Douchebag. Are these good small boobs? Let's see. Let's put them through the boob calculator. It says that. Oh, never mind. There's not much shape. I think you need to work a little bit more on the shape. I really made these breasts here look very, very. Can you send it again, Nazir? To make these breasts look more like they're sagging and less boyish, is to push the nipples lower. To push the nipples all the way down here. To make it look like they're moving out of downward. And you just have to keep rendering more and more, and then you get the darker areas near the bottom, so that the breasts look like they're pushed down. Try to get the nipples symmetrical. Nothing funny about asymmetrical nipples at all. Nothing. Okay, push that area out. And of course, secondary lighting, you're going to need that. Just keep rendering this. This rendering job I'm doing is horrible for time, but just keep rendering it until you form the basically very general shape of the breasts. Okay? So save as desktop. Okay, so what we have here is before. See how the shoulders are pushed up? After. We have a more natural sort of flow to the gesture. And everything seems to be working together. Remember, sculpt and don't lose the form. Just going to add a bit of contrast. Don't lose the form in trying to figure your way around the image. Just remember, it's all about sculpting the form of the chest. Slowly, slowly. Don't give in too much light. Just remember, the lightest spots are where most of the skin is exposed to the light. So before for today for Nazir and after. Okay, so I'll send this back to you. This is what I want for your day 2, okay, Niz? It's a lot of information, I know, but you can do it. Okay? Okay. Yes. No. So yeah, exactly what I did with Tia, exactly what I did with Nazir's. Just remember that the light moves up this way and inside and between the breasts. And then just keep forming out of that. Okay? How do I make her look pubescent? Mattia said no hard edges. Any more tips? To basically sum up, 1 second. Please send me on Skype. Okay. They're not sending it. What was the question? How to make her look pubescent? Okay. Well, essentially, oh my gosh. It's crazy fucking. 1 second. That's my husband. 1 second. Okay, sorry. So yeah, just make sure that the shape is in between both. Make her look pubescent. So, making her look pubescent, the best way to do it is to, of course, include all the tips. I mean, the hints of puberty, which are sort of very thinned out body, very scrawny body, but with a little bit of adult sort of characteristics. So an enlarged sort of chest area, hips area, a little bit more, but you're still in the scrawny world. Remember, Nazir, you're still in the scrawny. Pubescent is like 11 years old, so 11 and up. That's basically pubescent. And so introducing tiny sort of little details like that will make her look a little bit more pubescent. Okay, so an enlarged chest area, lips sort of getting bigger, but usually it's the breasts. Usually, always, it's the breast and the butt. The breast and the butt are what grow first. Take it from me. Okay? To a point where there's no return once the butt and the breasts are growing for girls. First thing that start growing is the breast and the butt, and a little bit of the stomach too. Okay? So if you can sort of draw a very scrawny looking 10-year-old boy and throw in some boobs and butt. A little bit of boobs and butt, just like a sprinkle of boobs and butt. Okay? And yes, like no muscles at all, like I told you, scrawny. No muscles at all. Unless they're like working out. This has a little bit of muscle in it, so this is not really pubescent. This is more adult. 2019, I don't know. Beautiful lighting. Do you guys see what I mean when I say it's all about the lighting? If you don't have the lighting direction, you don't have shadows, and then you don't have form. And the way he's used those whites, those really light yellow, peachy, not peachy, sandy yellows at the areas where light touches the most. And then he just has the shadows trail away.